Hello and welcome to today's webinar on key perspectives on building data for social impact capacity through higher education. My name is Priyank Hirani, and I'm the Associate Director of the Capacity Accelerator Network here at data.org. The Capacity Accelerator Network, also called CAN, was made possible by generous funding from the Mastercard Center for Inclusive Growth and launched in the United States in early 2022. CAN was developed with two key goals in mind. One, to create open curricular tools and a model for experiential data science education that could scale across diverse higher education institutions across the globe. And second, to train 1 million data practitioners by 2032. As of today, made possible by funding from Wellcome, we now have two additional accelerator networks, one in Sub-Saharan Africa, which we launched in partnership with GPSDD, and another in India in partnership with JPAL South Asia. Today's focus, though, is our US Accelerator Network, which has been led by our panelist, David Uminsky, and his team at the University of Chicago's Data Science Institute. This network consists of California State University, Fresno, City Colleges of Chicago, Howard University, Morehouse College, North Carolina State University, the University of Illinois at Chicago, and University of Texas, San Antonio. Together, this all-star team implemented data science courses, degree programs, and trainings at their respective universities. They learned from one another and supported one another as they worked to achieve the goal of the network. From this work and their learnings, a US team convened this year and wrote our soon-to-be-released playbook, which I'm super excited about, on building DSI capacity in higher education. But today, we want to give you all a preview into this playbook and hear straight from the conveners themselves. So now, without further ado, I would like to introduce today's panelists. I want to quickly welcome David, Kate, and Mario. Unfortunately, our fourth panelist, Dr. Amy, is unwell and will not be able to join us. But we'll begin with requesting our panelists to introduce themselves. Please tell us your organization, your position, and where you're joining us from. I'll go to David first.
Thank you. Thanks, Priyank. Thanks for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here today and talk about the work we've been doing over the last 18 months plus as really a team and a network. I'm David Uminsky. I'm the executive director of the Data Science Institute here at the University of Chicago. My research is in mathematics of data science, and now mostly data science and AI work. I am excited to be joining you as well from Chicago. So I will hand it off next. I think Mario.
Thanks, David. Yeah. Please, Mario.
Hello. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. My name is Mario Bañuelos. I am an associate professor and associate chair in the math department at California State University, Fresno, so in the middle of California. And my research is mainly in applied math with respect to mathematical biology and using machine learning to predict endemic diseases. I'm happy to be here, and I look forward to talking more about the work we did.
Hi, everybody. My name's Kate Connor. I'm coming from City Colleges of Chicago, in Chicago, not that far from David. And we're part of a community college system, which has 7 colleges in a city college district. And in my work here, I've served in a variety of roles, from faculty to vice president of academic affairs, and am currently working as a professor in the education and early childhood department. I kind of came to the project in a different role and was able to stay on and really have been excited about doing this work and excited to share the work. This has been a great network and really exciting to be a part of.
Awesome. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining. As I mentioned earlier, each of you have worked in unique ways to bring or expand data science education at your own institutions. But it's also the network effect that all of you have been connected with each other And I have been privileged to see some of that work closely, but I'd love to sort of begin with requesting each of you to briefly, maybe take 2 or 3 minutes to explain some of the outcomes of your work as part of the Capacity Accelerator Network. Maybe Kate, if I could start with you. I'm aware that at the City College of Chicago, you were able to create a data science course that's taught by preceptors from the University of Chicago. I haven't heard about anything like this before, so I don't know if there's precedence and I know this wasn't the plan when we started the engagement. So this was something that you were able to sort of turn it around during the course of this engagement. Could you share a little more with participants?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. And just for context, yeah, we did not think this was going to be possible because getting curriculum launched at the community college, particularly in a new and emerging area, can be so difficult. We just didn't think we'd be able to do it in the time frame. And so this effort is truly why we were able to get it done. So for context for folks, community colleges offer that kind of first 2 years of transfer or career training. And our schools work across the district, the 7 schools, to kind of collaborate on who's going to lead what and how we're going to move through those things, and then also how we're going to serve our students and make sure that it's comprehensive. In this project, we wanted to get some data science going. We just truly didn't have the instructional bandwidth. And that's a really common challenge at community colleges. Some of it can be because community colleges in rural areas, and some of it can be in an emerging field. It can be difficult to hire because the pay is higher. And when we have to offer our contracts to folks, we just can't match pay in industry, or it's just hard to keep pace with an industry. In community colleges, we are expected to be able to match our curriculum with a specific field. And I don't remember, David might, the zip code from the education or from the federal government, I want to say was launched in 2018 for data science, which means that it's such a brand new field, it's really hard to build. So when I was talking about this challenge with David, he threw out this idea of what if we did this preceptorship? And the preceptorship is this joint effort where students or preceptors have full-time employment at UChicago, and then they work with city colleges and help us develop our data science work while also teaching classes. So the way that it ended up unfolding is these preceptors started at UChicago in year 1, teaching their data science course at UChicago, while also doing professional development coursework within our system, which our professional development coursework for faculty focuses really on curriculum and learning and instructional design. And they were able to bring those 2 things together and take the UChicago course and adjust it, and we then taught it at city colleges. Now, that wasn't without some great learning. We learned that we had to adjust the pace, we had to adjust content. Most recently, there was a great conversation with our department chair and the preceptors around prerequisites in the course. And if we have a majority of our students coming to our system that are not testing college ready in mathematics, what does that mean for entrance into this course? And having the preceptors who have this deep knowledge in data science and teaching it at multiple institutions to be able to come to city colleges, advise us, but then also get to iterate that curriculum and build it has just been unbelievably valuable, because often we're trying to build a curriculum without either the instructional bandwidth or without the industry bandwidth. And with this project, we were able to get both right at the start. And so it was really, really great to be able to be agile in kind of iterating curriculum and growing it, but also getting advice not just from the preceptors, but from all the CAN network.
Awesome. That's quite some groundbreaking work. And it's great that you were able to find that sweet spot between getting both the academic side and the industry side sort of in this together. Thank you so much for sharing that. Maybe building on that, if I could go to David, you've sort of been the orchestrator of this entire network, right? You were our first partner, and you were the one who actually got all the other partners together. So you have worked very closely with all the partners, but there's a lot that you've also been able to sort of push forward at the University of Chicago itself in terms of the kinds of data science for social impact initiatives that were launched in the last couple of years. the summer lab or the data clinic, etc. Would you like to share some of those with us today?
Yeah, and thank you, by the way. And hearing Kate talk about her work, it's probably better than this cup of coffee in terms of getting me excited for the day. I would say that, we're talking about outcomes of this program, and Priyank, you hit on some important ones there. This opportunity has really been at the highest level, the ability to, the last letter in the CAN acronym is network. And what I think the long-term largest outcome of this is going to be is there's this core network now of folks that have worked together from very different backgrounds, very different academic backgrounds. You'd think we were only mathematicians and education folks here, but I promised lots of computer science, statisticians, social scientists all through this network. And that network has then connected people at each of those nodes together and then through the network. And so one of the outcomes I really like to stress about this is I was able to learn so much, and we were able to do more at the University of Chicago and do it better because we had such a strong network. And I, to be candid, had not led a network like this. It also started, as we all know, during COVID. There was a lot of remote engagement as well as some in-person opportunities. So I just want to acknowledge that it's really like the outcome I'm really excited about is like the impact of what this network continues to be and what we're going to keep doing. 2 years in the academy is like, a couple of days probably in the industry. We don't move as fast. But one of the other big outcomes I'd say widely is just how many of our partners achieved their goals, created new goals, and did more than we expected when we first got together and started talking about data science, experiential learning, and social impact. At the University of Chicago, we've had like I mentioned, we had an incredible opportunity to start and grow new programs, be informed by our partners on how best to do some of the programs we do here. One of the great examples we'll talk about later is our summer program that we ran from students from all over our network that came to the University of Chicago for a summer. We learned an incredible amount from that, how to run best summer program, and had some really incredible outcomes for the students as well. Our clinic, which is, our core philosophy in teaching data science at the University of Chicago, includes experiential learning. In short, we really don't want any data scientists graduating from the University of Chicago unless they've actually worked on a real world data science problem. And not surprisingly, our most popular or nearly most popular for some category of students of clinic and experiential learning is in the social impact sector. And that for us is heartening. I think long-term, we all have to intentionally work hard to build sort of public interest data science. We need to make sure there is a career, that this is not a focus purely on altruism and, sort of volunteerism. So when we do this work, we inspire students to think about doing this for the rest of their career. And even if they take that first job out of graduating, not in the social impact sector, what we're starting to see longitudinally is a return to some of that work, including also just immediate pivot in career goals around this work. So I think we have hundreds of students go through the clinic over the last couple of years. A large percentage of those doing our social impact clinics. These are projects sourced from everywhere, really. The public sector, nonprofits, social impact organizations globally and locally in our backyard in the South Side. And that program really was able to sort of mature and grow and assess what we're doing and really be informed by the PIs on this network. I'm really grateful for that.
That's amazing to hear. And as a platform for partnerships, we at data.org obviously are very humbled to hear the value of the network that we were able to sort of support with the efforts that all of you put in. And that's something, network building and nurturing networks is very close to my heart with the work that we're doing with US, India, and Africa partners. But if I could bring in Mario into this conversation, you sort of took up a Herculean task, Mario, when we started this engagement in trying to get eight or nine departments to pitch in towards a minor in data science. And that's not easy by any lens. Would love to hear more about where that has progressed and how have you been able to manage in getting that minor up stand up for all of us.
Yeah, thank you. It was, I think, as you describe, a Herculean task. So one of the things that I was going to comment later, but I'll just say it now, is that being able to find support in multiple departments has been a challenge. So one of the things that we did was we set up a proposed minor that had courses from different departments, and then we solicited feedback from those departments because we weren't just trying to make it so that, for example, the math department just had this minor. We really wanted it to be an interdisciplinary effort, and we also wanted it to be accessible to multiple students. So not just students in computer science, not just students in mathematics or engineering. So that if you are in an institution like a CSU, for example, there's a lot of departments that are siloed, and then so a lot of the courses are repeated. And so instead of trying to say, okay, let's take all those courses and create a new department, we wanted to say, okay, well, let's not replicate the efforts that are already done, and instead let's leverage the kind of infrastructure we have. And we've gotten the support from those departments. I think it was 8, and so we are submitting that to the college probably this week. So I'm excited about that. But having someone also that knows the, what's the word, bureaucracy, like someone much more experienced than I am at the institution you're at, really helped, because they know what to, like, how to support you. So that was really helpful for us, for sure. And then I also want to mention that, like, overall at the institution, there's now just a more increased awareness of this field, as before, like maybe even 5 years ago when I started, there was not. And so that's really good. I like that there's a support from administration and now all levels. And one of the things that David mentioned was that the summer program, really opened the eyes for students that had never even thought about, I could use my skills in programming or, data to help my community. So I think having them come back and share their stories with people here was really important, because not a lot of companies know that they can leverage some of these tools to improve their society.
Great. It's incredible to see how you were able to break silos and get some of these departments to collaborate to truly have an interdisciplinary approach towards minor in data science. So that's amazing to hear. Thank you, all of you, for these insights. I want to keep rolling with the theme of today's session, which is learnings and insights. I'm sure our attendees are interested in a number of things, but one of the things that I feel like is top of mind for people today is sort of, where have you found success in building these structures behind your data science initiatives? Maybe you could share one win and how you achieved that win. And I'll start with David and move to Mario and Kate in that order then.
Yeah, so I think there's a win and a challenge in structure in one of our programs. I'm going to use it to kind of emulate, maybe as a mirror for a lot of the successes and similar challenges we had throughout doing this. We built the summer program largely from scratch, and it was an opportunity to ask ourselves a lot of questions and challenge the way we think about doing summer programming for our students. Many of the PIs on this group had either been a student in a sort of summer research-oriented program, a graduate student, a mentor, a faculty, or a director of one. Not everyone. So we came with what our lived experience to this design looked like. And one of the ways we were able to, I think, ultimately build an effective program is over the period of time of working together, we had learned to build trust and strengthen our communication as a group. So we felt comfortable putting in our best ideas and challenging each other's ideas to make better as we were doing this work together. And I can remember many of our conversations as we were designing this, feeling, wow, I don't know if that was the decision I was going to make, but I feel like I feel like it did just get better, and I wouldn't have thought of that on my own. So as we're putting this together, we had many decisions to make together to build a cohesive, supportive, and high impact summer program. And we had to set out our goals and our principles. The things that I liked is we had to decide things like, how are we going to do admissions? How are we going to recruit students across this network? And what I'm proud about is that was an emergent conversation. We didn't just write down a form and send it to everyone. There was a form, but it was also the opportunity for every institution to define their process. And so when we had goals, we had North Stars, we were aiming to develop a summer program that was not targeting necessarily folks at the end of their education in data science, but more at the beginning of their data science education. That doesn't mean just first or second years. It could mean doctoral students, but when it comes to education in data science, they were going to be at the beginning of their journey. That meant we had to build training and an infrastructure at the beginning of the program. So it's a 7-week program. The first 2 weeks was an intensive educational experience to train all of the students from very different backgrounds to get ready to do research with a social impact partner. And so that, again, through a lot of really important conversation, we figured out what was ways we've seen this being done that was effective and emulate the best of those, and what was new that we had to do that we had not done before. And that was the discovery part for all of us. And so, I think the structure in there behind all of that is just having experts that understand their students and understand what a positive outcome is, coming to a consensus as we design and build a new program from scratch. I think one of the challenges we found is it's always hard for at least us academics to anticipate the level of work that is required as we commit to things. That's just a microcosm of just the maybe terrible decisions we make, but we are very optimistic about what we can get done in a certain amount of time. And no matter what, I think that one of the biggest challenges, I don't know if everyone else on this call feels this way, is I perennially underestimate how hard something's going to be or how much time it's going to take. But, as I mentioned before, the program went extraordinarily well by, I think, almost all measures. It is going to have that network effect. Students went back to their institutions, gave talks, talked to their faculty about the research they did. Some of them are writing up papers. I'm really excited to report that they've already gone out and presented at national conferences their work. And a few of them have already won awards as best posters and best presentations. There's a really important kernel of what we just got started last summer that I hope we can continue.
That's great to hear about this discovery journey, both for academicians, but also the students who are involved. And yeah, I've been sort of able to view some of that work closely. So it's really heartening to see them win accolades from all places. So thank you so much for sharing that. Mario, would you like to go next?
Yeah. I touched a little bit about some of the structures earlier, but I also want to mention that we, as a part of this program, developed there's a course module that we're finishing up. It's transdisciplinary in nature. So one of the things that one of the courses I teach is mathematical modeling. And so I collaborated with a lecturer from CSU Stanislaus, and we co-taught, and we did this for 2 weeks. And they were able to hear from like an ethnic studies perspective what were things that were done historically, like redlining, for example, and how they affect us today. And a lot of the students had not heard it in that context. And so part of the module development is going to include like an introduction to data ethics, because maybe they've never seen that before. And that is kind of that is a small part of how I hope that this data science minor will move forward, that it'll have applications in social justice and social impact. And I also spent 3 weeks at one of the summer experiences this last summer, and so that really also helped me gauge what kind of problems the students were facing, like in terms of the programming they needed, the kind of questions they needed to ask, the kind of communication skills they needed to talk to community partners, things like that. And even though it didn't happen within the time frame of the grant, I'm partnering with a community organization here in Fresno, and we're going to try to do some environmental justice, data science summer experience for middle school students, and so I'm excited about that. We hope that's happening next summer. So getting that experience really helped me say, okay, yeah, I need to also make sure that I have to anticipate how much work this is going to be and what is appropriate for the training that the students have. So I'm excited about that. I think just my time in this network, part of the structures that help support were just being able to lean on people like David and other members of the network to bounce ideas off. And I really appreciated when we met either virtually or in person, because those times I could hear about similar struggles or different struggles and approaches that we could use to get through those things. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say about that.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think both the environmental justice data science summer for next year sounds amazing as an extension of what you were able to grasp and get as an outcome of exchanges between the academicians and in this year's UChicago Summer Lab. But your transdisciplinary course with both mathematics modeling and ethnic studies is something that I would have loved to enjoy. So yeah, I hope to get to do that someday. But coming to Kate, would also love to hear about one win and how you achieved this, Kate.
Yeah, I want to go back to something David was talking about with the Summer Institute and just highlight how powerful that Summer Institute was. Many times folks want to partner with community colleges, and it's really hard to make sure our students feel seen and valued in that space. Because often there's a lot of stigma attached to community colleges, even just the way we talk about them. There's a lot of misunderstanding. And for context, we have our average age of student is in their late 20s. At Truman, we have students from 90 different countries and 120 different languages spoken on campus. Our students have rich experiences that often don't get seen. And so for us to be able to send students to this network and for them to sit in a room with folks from California State University, with folks from University of Chicago, Morehouse, all these institutions, and feel valued, seen, heard, and that they can hold their own, that just doesn't happen. I shouldn't say it doesn't happen. It's very difficult to create that. It is amazing. And I am very grateful that community colleges, we were able to hold an equal voice in this conversation, and often we're kind of the second voice. So I really just think that that's such an important aspect. And with that kind of goes into what I think was one of our biggest supports was partnership. We don't have data science faculty in our system. We have folks that are in statistics that are interested in data science. We have folks in CIS who are interested in data science. We do not have folks trained in data science. So not only the preceptors, but this network, we went in knowing we didn't know everything. And I think that was a great gift to us. And truly one of the first conversations we had, I remember Mario talking about the disciplines and departments and being like, oh, I'm so thankful to hear that, because I know that's going to be something I'm going to have to navigate. And then to be able to watch Mario and others talk through the way they navigated it. So I was thinking about how we were going to navigate it before we even had a course going, because I was able to hear all these folks who've gone down this journey before. And that was so helpful and really helped me think about it and our team think about it of how do we leverage the knowledge at this institution that we already have and make sure that we're integrating that into this program development. And then where can we just very easily say, we don't have that skill set. What do you do? And we were able to come to these conversations just really kind of blank slate. And that was really exciting and very helpful. And then I think the other thing that came with that we learned very quickly, which is a value that I just kind of really think is hard to do in curriculum development the way it's set up for us, but we were able to do in this space is we iterated. So in this partnership, we learned, and then we would implement something and we would adjust. And then we would implement and discuss and adjust. And that kind of grace in curriculum development can be really hard to do in a system that has really tight structures around curriculum. And so having that space in partnership and then iteration really helped us be successful in implementation.
Awesome. That sounds like a lot of creativity in trying to thinking out of the box to get some of these things done. So this is all very amazing to hear. Thank you to all three of you. In the next segment, I actually wanted to end this portion of today's session with a discussion question. So say there's a university or an academic institution that already has an existing data science program, but it isn't really rooted in data for social impact. It doesn't have a focus around health, climate, any of the SDGs probably. And if they understand how impactful this is, and they want to see knowing how impactful data is when examining various societal challenges, this university or academic institution may want to learn how to best incorporate social impact aspects into their data science program. What advice would you give this university based on the insights that all of you have shared in the upcoming playbook that we hope to release soon? What would success look like in this scenario? So,
you usually direct us. I guess I unmuted, so I'll start. Well, you already took the easiest answer. I was like, I'll start with reading the playbook. But maybe what I'd say on top of that is I think we're all still learning, and it's all a work in progress. Like, as Mario just announced, like a big outcome is coming out really after even the program begins. So what I hope is if you really want to get started on this, you're going to hear stories in that playbook from 8 very different PIs and very different institutions on purpose. That was the intention. Small, large, research one, community college, any different geographic locations. So our challenges were all different. And I think that yours, whoever the royal you are, will also have its own, difficulty. But that doesn't mean you can't learn from this whole group. So there's a lot of lessons learned in that playbook. Feel free to kind of laugh at some of our mistakes and then avoid them. Generally, as general advice, I think like what Mario said is really important. You got to build your consensus in your, at first probably in your department, then a little bit higher. And you want to do sort of a ground up method. If you are going in completely alone and you don't have some buy-in, you don't have to have everyone's buy-in. I know Mario doesn't. I don't have everyone's buy-in, right? But I have a group that believes in the vision of what we wanted to do at the university. And that is more than enough to begin questions. So in the social impact space, you got to build your consensus, make sure your university is receptive to it. If you want to know how to build that consensus, I think through the students is really easy. You try things, you will pilot things, you'll see an enormous amount of reaction from students. That way, the students can talk to faculty and you can build your consensus that way. But I think it's a great question. It will be context dependent. But there's a lot of things that I think are hard about it. You have to learn to talk. Social impact doesn't come from anywhere. You have to do you want to think about your local community? Then that means you have to do what Mario did or what we did, right? Is you have to go out and talk to some community organizations to find problems to work on. But it is, I would say, just because I think it was good work. Is, you know, to browse through the playbook, see what resonates, and honestly, as you'll see in there, it says really just reach out to us as well. We would love to talk to folks about what we've done individually or collectively.
I think a thing that I would love to add, and this is kind of the conversation that I keep coming back. We've had this conversation and debate and critique about this exact thing quite a bit. Is one of the things that I will always push around social impact is who's getting into the workforce, who has access to data science knowledge is something that it can't just sit in social impact of curriculum. If we have the same folks doing data science. So I would challenge our universities and our colleges to think about who's sitting in the classroom. How are you integrating in your students' ways of knowing and understanding the world into data science training and into your understanding and your curriculum, and seeing the strengths that students build? Because that's how we can create a field that approaches a discipline in a more comprehensive way that recognizes societies and communities and ways of knowing. Not just helping folks who would go into data science anyway think in a more global or social impact manner. I really think what I have loved about this network is talking about who's getting into our courses, looking at how are they being successful, how does that curriculum amplify their knowledge, and how are we building the skills that they need to be in this career, in this industry, and build a future for themselves. So then they stay in it and they're already looking at all of their work from a social impact lens. But if we just have the same folks who always do this work doing the work, we're not going to have the big social impact we're hoping to.
Yeah, that reminds me of one of the experiences we had when we did the guest lecturing. When I was in guest lecturing in the ethnic studies class, I did a little bit of like statistics and visualizations, and then after I said, okay, how would you communicate these results to people in your community? How would you? And then they came up with like fantastic ways to do that. But I think a lot of the times people will say, oh, no, this is how you communicate to these results to these people. But most of the time that communication is so fixed on like, oh, I'm gonna do a research presentation, or I'm gonna do a conference talk. And so thank you, Kate, for bringing that up. The other thing I think I just want to echo and repeat is that what David said, you have to know what the community needs are, because otherwise it's like, oh, I have these tools and I'm just going to impose on the community. And also look for people that are already doing this, maybe in their research. One of the things that I started doing, it kind of lined up with this grant, was I started focusing some of my research on like research problems that were more relevant to the Central Valley here in California. So I started doing some machine learning for valley fever, which is an endemic disease here. And that has been really rewarding personally, but I had one of the CAN students from Fresno work on it. And it was like, it was a proud moment for me. And so incorporating those, I think the people that are already doing some of this with the community is super important.
That's really amazing to hear. And what I'm hearing is sort of localized efforts are important. Getting the community involved is critical. Kate, you brought in a super important point, which is about who gets trained, who has access to data science, and somehow we try to reduce biases by including diverse voices into analyzing, engaging with data, and that's super critical. But it's also interesting how these people, when they go back to their community, it's how they communicate back to the communities about what their needs are. As well as what you brought up, Mario, as to how some of these research problems that come from the community itself would be so important. I wonder if, but it's also true in my understanding that academic and community partnerships are not very trivial. They are extremely hard. There might be incentive structures that are very different. And all of you have tried doing that, right? So I'd love to hear a little bit more on what do you think about how one could overcome some of these things? I'm not
For
going to
me,
direct you one, so yeah, please go on.
Yeah, I'll say for me, I have had some experience like doing research with people outside of my department, right? That's part of my training, and it's because it's in applied math. And so you have to learn how to communicate what you can do and what they need, right? So I've had with the one community organization that we're working with, that started with some professional development on like the role of Black scientists in today's field of science, and kind of the underlying structures of racism in education. And then after that, I reached out and we had a lot of conversations about like, this is where I'm coming from, this is what the community needs, this is what she's done, the community organization's done to uplift Black and Brown students, and why it's important to have these trainings. And so it's a lot of back and forth on the communication of like, what are the needs of the community and what are the tools that I can provide, or like I can help build. But it's very much a lot of listening, because if you don't do that, then it's not, for me, it's not another research problem, right? It's like, this is something that's going to affect our society for a long time.
And I would say for us, it really started if we don't have the capacity right now to do a ton of work directly with an organization to build that data science capacity. So for us, it's not just about partnership with an organization, it's partnership with another institution who can help us. So UChicago, again, in this network really is vital for us because we don't have that capacity. Not that maybe someday we will, but just right now, it's not within our bandwidth. And so really being able to learn from others who are doing this work, partner in, and think about scale. So for us, it's not just about how deep can that partnership go with the organization, but like what kind of scale could we do within a course that actually makes sense that we could commit to and deliver on, and being really aware of that. And when you're brand new to something, to piggyback off of David's comment about people don't always know how much to commit to, like we're still brand new to data science overall, that we would overcommit very quickly. And so having a partner to help us understand, no, this makes sense for a course. This makes sense as an assessment to do in a partnership within a class. It was really helpful.
So I totally agree with my colleagues. So, and I'll just add that, I'm glad to hear that our partnerships and this network has been as beneficial to you all as it has to us. Our preceptors in that classroom, as a result of teaching at the community colleges, are vastly better in the University of Chicago classrooms as well, right? And so that is part and intentional part of the training, but it was also a bet, right? We were hoping that what they brought to the classroom in the community colleges under the mentorship of the city colleges would be of great benefit to the students. But we were also betting when they came back that they would be bringing incredible training experiences and pedagogical techniques back to the University of Chicago, and they really have. So I'm grateful for just the partnership. Maybe just to take that last question a slightly different way, maybe reflective of the seat I'm in, one of the things I think we have to do broadly for academics, for our students and our faculty, is we need to work at a higher level to kind of put down the flag that this space that we're working in the social impact data science AI space, has rich research going on, high impact work. And as a group, we need to form opportunities for that to be celebrated and treated like it is really important research. A lot of us, I know where the math journals are. I know where NARIPS is. I know where machine learning conferences are. There are workshops going on in the social impact space, But I think, as a community that's growing rapidly, we need to have flagship venues. We need to have places that are reflective of the high quality work that our students are working on, our faculty are working on. And that's just something I'm going to say out loud and will require a lot of work to do. But that's kind of bringing the whole field up intellectually. And I think that's, something that we're working on actually, and I'm hoping to make progress on as well.
That's incredible. It's so humbling to hear all this. And I think overcommitment sounds like a consistent theme with leaders that are dedicated and passionate, right? All of us, because of our love for data science and wanting to do more, we overcome it. But I hope it's a good problem to have. But I'm going to sort of move to taking some audience Q&A because we have about 13 minutes. And I want to give time to some of the members that have joined us today. I see there is one question that's already in the chat. So I'm going to ask that question. And again, I'll leave it open to any of our panelists to chime in. There's a question from Chicodia. Chicodia says, I'm a data scientist at IntraHealth International. I think domain context is crucial, especially with global health. That's absolutely true. Understanding what the stakeholder problem is takes up to 70% of my time. After this, understanding applying the theoretical concepts is a breeze. How is stakeholder engagement incorporated in the program and being taken into consideration? So I know we touched upon some of this earlier, but would love for anyone to go dig deeper.
I can take a stab at this. I think it's a great question. I think it's true, Chicodia, that the domain aspect of the work we do is a critical aspect. We have at least moved away from the original, at least at the University of Chicago, original formulation of data science is the intersection of three bubbles: math, stats, computer science, domain. It doesn't make it not true, but I think there's sort of a bigger sort of puzzle we're putting together here that includes foundations, communication, societal impacts, domain still being one of the critical puzzle pieces. The way we've actioned on that in social impact, at least in the clinic, is it's incorporated throughout the whole process. So just, bear with me for a little bit. We'll have projects come in from a partner, let's say a health partner, which we have some, and we have the scoping process in which the projects come through. We look at the problem. We look at what the questions are, what the research questions are. We also require and look at who the partner at the health institution is, right? So as part of at least our clinic program, needs to be a commitment on identified mentor. They represent the most expert on the domain side of the clinical experience. We then source, we have a lot of students that apply for that project. We look to build teams that have backgrounds both in data science, potentially health, and a wide variety of diverse education at the University of Chicago. So the team comes with a lot of different training and background. We then build and find and source a mentor that can oversee both as much of the technical problems that they anticipate having, as well as much of the domain knowledge as we can possibly muster in a single person. And then that team really represents the way knowledge translates into action. So for our partner at the institution, they are the #1 domain knowledge holder. They may also be a data scientist. They may also be a machine learning expert, but principally they hold the critical domain knowledge that the students need. And we then begin the process of interaction, right? So the students do a lot of work, then they check in with their partners, they learn how to present to them, they receive feedback from the domain expert, and then they iterate, we sprint again. And so there is an incorporation of this from the start. I agree with you. We just sort of emailed a data set to a bunch of students, said, good luck. It would probably go any which way. And an expert in the domain would have fixed that in a heartbeat. So.
Great. There's another question that has come through, and it relates to something that was discussed earlier regarding how the Summer Lab actually is targeting students or professionals who are at the beginning of their data science journey, not necessarily their own careers. And this question is about how do you recommend appealing to students from non-traditional disciplines such as communications or political science to participate in a data science program?
Let one of my partners go first, but I have thoughts on this.
I feel like Mario should take this, but I will say, we're building a program right now. Sorry, Mario. We're building our program right now, but what we are seeing is as students are getting exposed to this coursework, they are pulling each other in. And so if you can really get that coursework that gets students excited and makes them feel seen, they talk to each other and they rally and come in. We're getting more and more. Are we teaching this course in the spring? I want to be in the class, because they're so interested in the content.
Yeah, I think the only method I have right now is just increasing awareness, but increasing awareness in not just like, oh, hey, here's this course and this is what we do, but also just showing examples. Because when we did this co-teaching with ethnic studies, the students in each course had reflections, and then like their reflections were really impactful for me, because they said, oh, I never knew that I could use like math or stats or visualizations to communicate things to people in my community. And so I think those conversations, having them with the faculty that teach those courses, is super important. And even doing like a guest lecture has been one of the ways to do that. But yeah, the students will talk to each other. And that's how like my math modeling course got students that were not math majors in it. So and that was also intentional in our designing of the minor, because we want multiple majors to be able to take these courses. So there's like people from sociology, people from psychology, and not necessarily limited to like, oh, this is the one track you take to do this. And the other part was having, in one of the sections for the minor, you have to take courses outside of your discipline. So if you create that space so that the students talk to each other, and they could say, oh, I took this course and this is what I did in that one. And the hope is that, that communication also leads to the creation of courses that are more focused on like data science for social impact.
No, I will try to control my answer to the clock, because this is a big thing I think about all the time in my career. I know Mario has similar experience. When I got my PhD in mathematics, I think when I checked the AMS data that they publish every year, last I checked, this was a while ago, I was one of 11 Latinx PhDs that graduated out of 1,000 plus in the US that year. And fortunately, if I check Mario's year, I think the number's flat, like nearly the same. And he's much younger than I am. So our STEM fields, particularly at the doctoral level, but it passes all the way down to the undergrad and before that, have a systemic problem of attracting students into programs like what we're teaching. And I felt like it was a great privilege at this moment in time that there was a new field emerging in this field of data science and now AI. And we could do nothing about it and let the people that would select in to a new STEM field do what they would do, or groups like this could try to do something differently. And so for me, what I've really spent a good deal of my career on is trying to do something differently. So as we build this field, we have to think about how we attract new folks in that would have skipped the math major, that would have skipped the computer science major, skipped the stats major, or any other of our fields that kind of feed data science. And we know what to do. We have folks that study in fields like Kate and Mario. There are practices we can implement. What I'm proud about is I came to a place like the University of Chicago and they were already doing something. Shockingly, I was, shouldn't say that, but our first course in data science is not a weed out course. I mean, it took forever for that like not to happen. I would tell you that our calc sequence is tough here. And but our first courses in data science are project based. They are, there is practice you can put in here that keeps people learning and exposed to this field. And honestly, they're also super hard, but they're hard the right way. So that gets people excited to be working on problems early. You welcome in a big group. What are we seeing? Our major is on its way to being the 5th largest major on campus. It has a diversity of students that are just not like our other majors in STEM right now. And I'm very proud about that. And it comes to social impact as one of those. We need to give people the authentic opportunity to work on problems they care about. And when I was growing up in math, I did applied math too, like Mario. Our choices were like coupled oscillators that were fluid dynamics if we cared about applied mathematics, right? And so now we have these real problems that we can put in front of people and say, this is what you can solve with data science, math, or what we're trying to do. And we got to keep going. Some people would say, oh, how could you do this? Like if they get a degree, they're going to go work at a top tech company and help them sell ads. And that's where the money is. And you're right. That's definitely one outcome of this. But I would challenge folks to think that we can't make change systemically and career-wise, because we already know very lucrative fields have. So law has a public interest law track, and it is not a small track. A lot of people go to law school, become public interest lawyers. When we think about the medical field, similarly, you can go do public interest medicine at the end of your career, and it's a job. And I think if we work hard enough at this, data science, AI, and our friends surrounding those fields could also have its own impact field as well. And so I think ultimately, long-term, that's what I'm trying to get going. And I think this group has made more progress than I would have made on my own in this, and that I'm really proud of.
That's great to hear. We're almost at time. In the last 1 minute, Kate, we have a question from Susan, if you may want to answer that, and quickly read it out with saying, I'm wondering if in addition to Truman students pulling in other students and driving interest, do you also experience increased interest from other instructors and faculty members into data science, or anticipating this for other programming and funding?
Yeah, I will. And right before I say that, I just want to say, partner with community colleges. If there's universities on here, 40% of undergrads are at community colleges. First-gen students, students of color, linguistically diverse students are sitting at community colleges, and they're great. Overall, we have a ton of interest. The more that this has come up, we've gotten CIS programs across the district who want to be in it. We have the engineering department that wants to be a part, math. We're bringing folks together. We are trying to say, let's all get at the table and build this program that makes the most sense and be, to Mario's point, agile. Like, how can we integrate in across disciplines and get folks career ready? There has been a lot of interest and support within the institution. We definitely anticipate being able to seek additional funding, because we are trying to align this coursework as closely as we can with job opportunity at the associate and then bachelor and master's degree level, but thinking at that associate degree level, which then accesses funding for a lot of community colleges and career placement. So yes, we anticipate a lot. And if you are interested in talking about it, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk about it.
Awesome. And we are right at the clock. And that's a great way to sort of end our conversation today. Thank you so much, David, Kate, and Mario, for giving us your valuable insights and for your time today. Thank you to all the audience members who joined us. This has been remarkable learning for me, and I hope you all are also as excited as I am for the playbook that's coming out soon. It is really important to learn how one could set up or expand data science social impact programs like what our partners have been able to pioneer in the last couple of years. And I hope some of these key takeaways were helpful to all of you. Huge thanks to everyone for joining. Please do subscribe to our newsletter and connect with us on social to stay connected. Thank you so much and have a good day.